This is festivalPass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next. Okay, friends, welcome back to festivalPass Stories, where we are, of course, presented by Dos Hombres, the award-winning artisanal mezcal meant to be shared. Created by Aaron Paul and Brian Cranston. Have a drink on us at doshombres.com/delivery. Trust me, have a little bit of that. Just have it neat, little squeeze of the lime. And my guest today, I'm pretty sure he's of age, very young, but he's had a business career for a long time, so hard to tell, but we'll find out about that in a second. My guest today is Fernando Pereira. He's a partner in the digital studio festivalPass, based out of Portugal and Macau. Quite a commute back and forth, but he's also the co-founder of Grow Up eSports. So player one, Fernando, that's you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Thank you. Okay. And where are you coming from today? Macau, Portugal?
So I'm currently in Lisbon, in Portugal, but normally I'm between Portugal and Macau.
And you grew up in Macau, is that correct?
Yes, I was born in Macau. I kind of grew up in both places, a bit in Macau and a bit in Portugal. But for the past 7 years, I was actually based in Macau. But right now, I just ended up being stuck in Portugal because of the pandemic. But I'll be back there soon.
So when I think of Macau, I think of gaming, more like cards and dice and Vegas kind of games. But for you, it's a different kind of gaming. It's video games. And you
Correct.
grew up around all this. So did you get that itch, or was this just like what everybody did in Macau when you were a kid?
I think in Asia in general, it's pretty common for people, at least in the 90s or kids in the 90s, to grow up playing video games. They have an easier access to games because Macau is connected to China. And at that time, it was really easy to get like counterfeit copies of the games. So it was.
I hope the FBI isn't. They're not. I don't think they don't follow us, which is a good thing.
They don't yet.
Go on. Counterfeit games. Nobody. Games that rhyme with games that rhyme with Leafa 2000 and Grand Beth Lotto. Yes, that's what you knew that was going to be GTA. But anyway, so those kind of games. So you grew up on this stuff. This is where you cut your teeth.
Yeah, that's right. I did grow up playing video games in arcades and across my friend's house and all of that. So I think that I built this connection with video games quite early.
So in the U.S., the kids are out there playing soccer when they're little kids, which is amazing. Everybody plays soccer. Everybody plays soccer in the U.S. when they're a little kid, and then our national team is terrible, right? It's like we're getting better, but it's like everybody played from like the early '70s on, at least. All the kids have been playing, and we're just catching up to the rest of the world. It's hard. But in Macau...
The women's team is strong, right? The women's team.
Well, our women's team... You know what? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Excuse me. Half of the kids stink. Half. Just the men's side. The boys' side, the men's side. Yeah. The women are unbelievable. The women are the best in the world, and they've been winning World Cups hand over fist for 30 years at this point. I mean, this is like they're the favorite in the final. If we get through our bracket or our round, speaking of FIFA, if we can get through our World Cup pairing or bracket or whatever they call it, we're excited to get to that next level. Speaking of the next level, now you, fast forwarding many years later, you run operations for festivalPass. You keep things running smoothly. And last year was very hard to keep things running smoothly. And I'd ask you, how you do that now when you can't get on a plane every week and visit the offices and go shake hands with everybody hopping back and forth. But you've been doing that. You've been collaborating and operating remotely for years. So I'm just going to let you know that you were a visionary. You saw this coming years ago. So well done to you.
Thank you. I guess you'd probably find it interesting because The word virtualmente means virtually in English. So it's a Portuguese word, and it's the translation for virtually. And actually, when we started this company, the whole purpose was exactly to work remotely as digital nomads, because we didn't want to create like something that where we would be stuck in an office. So we did create this whole concept, and this was back in 2010, where we just wanted to really work remotely and do like digital work, anything that is digital related.
And if you are in the office, I hope on Fridays it's Paște de Nada Friday, where somebody brings in
that kind of office.
Somebody brings in, instead of, we bring in donuts here, but somebody's like Paște de Nada, which is a delicacy. And do you have a favorite? Because there's a couple places the tourists always go for the Paște de Nada, I should say. I think I'm even saying it wrong.
Yeah. The most common here, the one that all the tourists go, it's called Pastéis de Belém. You probably went there when you were here in Portugal. Yeah. But there's another one.
They're moving people in and out there fast. They're like, let's go.
Yeah. But there's another one a little less well known, which is called Manteigaria, and the ones that they have are really, really good as well.
If you only have 24 hours in Portugal, one thing to try to taste all the foods. You want to go to one of those places, but the timeout market, I guess you're kind of cheating, right? If you go to the timeout market, but the timeout market in Lisbon, I'm saying if you have 24 hours in Lisbon, go to the timeout market and just go into a food coma there. Food, wine, sandwiches, unbelievable stuff.
Glad to know you liked it.
Oh, I loved it. I can't wait to get back. Really, we brought some souvenirs back, like the tiles in the ground. There's the tiles in the building, which are famous, but how the streets are with the patterns of the street, the black and white patterns of the street. We have like some coasters with that on it, and like every time I put a drink on it, we're like, bon dia, Lisbon, bon dia. But speaking of bon dia in the beginning and so on, but you have been involved in eSports. We're talking about just playing video games, but you've been involved in eSports with Grow Up Esports. I'm going to guess you started this as a kid because you started this in 2003. And 2002. Whoa, excuse me. Wow, wasn't it? Wow. Hold on a second. So you were like just getting your braces on and starting this in 2002. But you were a co-founder of this group, and now there's like this growth in esports. It's been steady. Then it got into the mainstream, and now it is so much here to stay. It's professional. But when was the moment? I mean, you're having fun doing this because this is what you did growing up. You loved it, and then it got competitive. But when was the moment you realized this thing is going to be massive?
I guess it was. I never really wanted to pursue this professionally because, as you were saying, it was just about having fun. I think that. But then I kind of started to realize that, me and my friends, that this was growing so fast from an industry standpoint that why wouldn't we try to have fun, but at the same time turn it into a business? So that's kind of what we did, and we made that transition. Like we actually run Grow Up is actually a non-profit organization, and we made the transition to actually create a business that would run our festival back in 2007. So it's not that far ago.
I was going to say, it's such a movement. You turned it into an actual movement. Now it's a nonprofit where you guys you're focusing on social responsibility, but
education.
You're able to do it with esports, which is unbelievable.
Yes, I think that there's a lot of work to be done in terms of education, because most people in general, generally speaking, still look at playing video games as with a negative connotation. And I think that there's a bit of education that needs to be done, especially for parents, so that they will understand that it's not just about playing video games first is not the same thing as esports, competing in esports, because esports involves playing in a team. So there's teamwork, there's collaboration, communication, there's so many things going on. And there's also a lot of skills that are developed, engaging in these kind of games and competitions, that can be transferable into other real life situations and workplace. So I think that that there's a bit of education that needs to be done there.
And I love it. There's so many people who've fallen into careers by accident. Now, I wouldn't say this was by accident, but I'm
True.
sure while you're playing video games, you're like, well, I better have an accounting degree or something to fall back on.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all of a sudden it just becomes this thing. And you, as every entrepreneur would say, when you love your work, you never really work a day in your life. And you're
that's
there.
True.
But look, you can have that passion. But someone's got to pay the bills. Someone's got to pay the G5 bill to get you between Lisbon and Macau and so on. But you started attracting, once it was this nonprofit and a social responsibility message, you started attracting sponsors because people realized that not only you knew you had something here, but they realized that you had something there. So when was the first time a sponsor came to you and said, we want to be a part of this? Or did you start getting somebody, did you reach out first?
I think we did. We like across the years, because we started this back in 2002, and back then it was not as popular as it is right now. Well, I mean, it kind of was, but it was just not as well known. Like it was more like an underground kind of movement. I mean, people were not proud. Like I'm not proud to say that I'm a gamer, you know. But nowadays it's different. Nowadays people are proud to say that they are gamers, YouTubers, you know, all of this kind of like new generation professions that before didn't really exist, but now people are proud of doing that. So back in the day, it was not such a big thing, but we did try to pursue like sponsorships, support, and things like that. And we got some, but nothing really very relevant. Just like infrastructure support, like servers, stuff like that. So
soft
it was
dollar
not
kind
really
of things, not actually
brands.
people writing.
Yeah. But now it's not like that. Now you will see that brands finally understood that if they want to communicate with a younger audience, that it's not watching TV, it's not listening to the radio, it's not reading the newspapers. What are they doing? They're playing video games, most of them, right? So I think that they finally understood that if they want to communicate and engage with this audience, they need to do something in the video game space. So they need to communicate through video games, be it on competitions, on like nowadays you can even have games that are sponsored and have like in-game advertisement and stuff like that. I think that there's a lot to be developed in that space.
Yeah, hey, look, we got a sponsor here, but look, there's more room in the virtual digital background. So you know, if Konami, is Konami even a video game company anymore? I don't even know.
It is, yeah.
I should have been thinking of EA Sports. It's in the game. That's the
as well, yeah.
Those guys were everywhere. They even started having like at the Super Bowl, they started having like an EA Madden tournament, and they'd have all these current and former NFL players playing Madden against each other. And of course, it was a party environment, so you'd have like, and it became one of the hottest parties at the Super Bowl. And you'd have everybody's in these gaming chairs, everybody's hanging out, and it's like, don't you want to have a drink? It's like, no, man, I'm in the tournament here, and it's like, you know, there's all this stuff going on at the Super Bowl party. It's like, oh my God, there's what's his name from the Giants? Oh, there's Joe Montana, and people are like, yeah, I'm in the semis, and you just get into it.
That's true.
But it has turned into a worldwide phenomenon, and as I said, it's you mentioned it's not in the shadows anymore. People aren't I play video games for a living. It's like, no, I'm making a lot of money playing video games and making a difference. And you guys did make a difference. So tell me more about Girl Gamers. This is the eSports festival, specifically focused on women, on girls playing eSports. And this is a festival specifically for them. You started this in 2017. What was the story behind that?
Well, I guess it also started a bit with our background of like social responsibility, education, like being a nonprofit. And we were always a very inclusive community. I mean, at first it may have started with like a group of friends, like guys playing games, but then like as we grew up, like the girlfriends started to join. So eventually it became a diverse community. I think that we wanted to do something when we decided to like embrace this professionally, like full time. And we wanted to do something different and something that would also be positive and supportive, like to the whole industry. And we did find that there's such a big gap in the number of girls who are competing and the number of like guys. So it's something that we wanted to create in order to give more opportunities. I think that one of the things that is necessary to like bring more girls to the space is representation. So if we can like support the girls who are already competing right now and give them more exposure, I think that it will inspire a younger generation of girls to potentially pursue this as well, or even get an interest with video games, game development, study science, engineering, and they could bridge the gender gap in those industries, which are very male dominated right now. So what we're trying to achieve is definitely to get more girls involved in gaming, using these girls who can act as role model to inspire the next generation of younger girls to take an interest in the space.
And you're not just talking about playing games. You're talking about designing the games. You're talking about the engineering and the coding, the development behind those games. So here, we're in the U.S., we're always talking about we need to get more young girls involved in STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. And, I think this is a great way to do it, and a really fun way to do it as well, to bring them in to the development side of it.
There's actually already some studies that prove that if girls take an interest in video games at an early age, they are much more likely to pursue like STEM studies.
So it's male dominated right now, especially on the professional level when you get to that high sponsored level. But is there diversity amongst the young men that are involved in this? I mean, this doesn't seem like, outside of getting access to a console and the game cartridges, this doesn't seem like you would have to be from a specific socioeconomic background to excel in the gaming world.
Yeah, I do think there's diversity in that. And actually, like playing games itself, like it's almost half of the player base is women, actually. It's just on the competing side of eSports, like the high level competition, that women represent like just 1 or 2%. So, But in the gaming space is like 46% or something similar. Yeah.
Okay, so women and girls are playing, are involved. It's just that when it gets to that level where we're at that top level. So what really separates a great e-gamer from a professional e-gamer?
Well, I think that as anything, you need persistence and you need training to become good at something, right? So what happens now is that there's a lot of toxicity online, and for girls it's really complicated. Like if they play online, like with random people, most of the time they will be like harassed because of their gender. Like they will hear the usual stuff like, go back to the kitchen, what are you doing here, this is not for you. Yeah, so it's actually very, very toxic. If you search, if you search on YouTube, you'll find countless examples of those situations being recorded. And I think this is a big barrier because like you play games to have fun, right? But at the moment that you are someone who turns on like your console or your computer to play a game, and you are constantly harassed because because of your gender or whatever, I think that it becomes less fun, right? So if it's not fun, why would you like pursue it? So I think it's that demotivates a lot, and that's a big barrier for them to thrive and to become as competitive as men.
It's awful. And a lot of the people that are doing the harassing, I imagine, are faceless, nameless, just like they have just a logo instead of their actual face, or they're stealing somebody else's face. And then somebody gets blamed for something. You're like, that's not my face. Somebody stole that. I don't even play e-games. I don't know who that person is. Somebody stole that image so they could look like a real human, but they are not decent. It's terrible to hear. And it's awful to see that anywhere in social media. You could put up any kind of statement. You can put up a very positive statement on any social media platform, and there's going to be somebody who has to just trash it one way or another. And that's just how some people get through the day. Very sad. Yeah. They're awful people. People aren't going to like this podcast. That's fine. You don't have to listen. If they get this deep into the podcast, to this episode, and they have a problem with what we're saying, Thanks for listening, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for listening at Z1Q5662. No name, no picture, no avatar, whatever. So look, but this is a really important movement that you have going. And with the Girl Gamers Festival, you've been doing this for a few years. So obviously there's growth here. You see that nearly half of the people playing games online are girls, are young women. Yeah. What's next for the festival? Where do you take it from here?
So we grew a lot. We started as one event, a yearly event in 2017. And then in 2018, also like just one edition per year. But in 2019, we did a big jump and we went from a yearly event into a global event. So in 2019, we did 6 events all around the world, like from Australia to Brazil, Europe, South Korea. So we were in multiple places. And then in last year, 2020, we managed to do a big world finals, like with the winners of each of these events combined. And we did a huge festival in Dubai to basically find the world champion for all this circuit. So yeah, we've been expanding a bit, and we had plans to expand even more for last year if it weren't for the pandemic. So right now we are a bit on pause, and we actually are running right now an online competition also around the world, in multiple all continents, actually, even Africa it's included. So we're running like this initiative to keep going, because I think that if there's nothing going on, the teams will just fade away. So we need to create incentives for the teams to stay together. So this is going to be a global online competition, and hopefully maybe later this year when the live events come back, we'll be able to do something like live.
And what kind of incentives would those be? There is a lot more involved here than money. There are serious bragging rights. And on top of that, right? So what are the incentives that you're offering them?
Well, there's definitely the prize pool, which for this global edition is going to be $50,000 US. Which is, it's all right.
I'm in. I may not win. I won't win.
Go get your wig and register.
I know the girls can beat me. I know that my nieces could beat me in any game right now. I wouldn't even try.
Most likely, yeah. But yeah, other than that, I think that it's the bragging rights, as you were saying. Like it's important for the teams to consolidate and be able to like prove themselves, because this, as organizations themselves, this is also what will enable them to go and look for brands to support them and get more funding that way. So it's important to have competitions, or else there's nothing really to do and no reason to exist.
Yeah, and an old buddy of mine, he saw this growth from the beginning, and he used to work for Associated Press, Getty Images. Mm-hmm. And he looked at this business and he's like, eSports is blowing up. And he started a B2B video and photo licensing business called SPAT Media. And so now people are going to be coming to him. And I'm sure part of the business plan is just like with AP or NFL Films or anything like that. People are coming to you for 50 years. Saying, oh, can you give me that image from the big gaming festival and from Girl Gamer Festival 2018? Yeah, here it is. Yeah. Licensing fee is this. So, so people are coming to him for the originals. He's got the archives, and he owns all of the rights and the licensing to all of these, which is amazing. And they've built up this library. They've been building up this library now for a couple of years. But are you seeing people actually collect eSports memorabilia? Like, are people buying, I don't know, like a photo of somebody holding up the trophy or something, or with their console in their hand in action, staring at the screen?
Maybe not a photo, but there's definitely a lot going on from a merchandising perspective. It's probably one of the largest like revenue sources for this kind of like players and famous influencers in the space. But probably not photos. But there's another thing, which is I'm not sure if the photos are as valuable if compared to like the sports world, because what happens in video games is that the lifespan of the career of a gamer, of a professional gamer in this case, it's much shorter than like someone competing in sports. While in sports you could play football until you're like 40, stretching a bit, but
or if you're Tom Brady until you're 80.
Yeah, but in gaming, no. In gaming, you will lose your reflexes very quickly. Like maybe depends on the games that you play, but maybe when you're like 24, 25 years old, you're done. Your career is done.
So you're saying, as somebody my age, which doesn't need to be discussed right now, but you're saying it's probably, you're going to guess by the gray in the beard here, that it's probably a little too late to start?
I think it's never too late to start anything, but just be aware that you might be beaten by very young kids, like 14-year-old kids, very easily.
You should get sponsored by some sort of carpal tunnel medication. There's lots of commercials here for every drug, for everything out there. Somebody could have that right on their shirt or right on their glove. If they wear gloves or something, they could have it right on the gloves. Carpal tunnel, heels, whatever it is. Silbanthum is for carpal tunnel. If you play video games professionally up to the age of 24, Silbanthum is for you. There we go. Giving somebody another idea. We're just giving away free ideas here. That's not fair. So look, so now this thing is on the rise. It has been on the rise for a while, but where do you see this going? Because you can do this in this environment. I mean, you're running a business between two different countries in this environment virtually. But what I've seen, what's pretty exciting to me and to the SPAT media guys and so on, is that they're selling out arenas. They're filling, they're on YouTube with millions and millions of followers, and they're live streaming this stuff. So we need to get people back for this thing to really get to the next level, wouldn't you say? And by back, I mean, we need to get fannies in the seats, as a Yankees owner used to say.
Yeah, I do agree. And I would add something, is that esports right now is so popular that I would tell you that the last, like we've hosted 9 or 10 events around the world, one in each country, one in each different country. And we never once paid for space, as in like the arena itself, we never paid for it, which is impossible to do if you run any sort of different event. Yeah.
Why is that?
So
why is that why is your sport so unique?
I think it's because it draws a younger audience. It's innovative as well. So there's so many spaces that want to attract like younger audiences or more creative people to a certain country. There's always those sort of incentives. So it's totally different from sports. I think that you cannot achieve this in any other area. Like getting a whole arena for free to host an event there. It's impossible. But we've done it. They wouldn't even do that.
They wouldn't even do that for a nonprofit event. And I work with hundreds of nonprofits a year. In my main job as an auctioneer, you were talking about getting into this. This was something you did for fun, and it became your career. Mm-hmm. I used to do auctions for fun, and it became my career.
Wow, that's cool.
Wouldn't say it was by accident, but I got into it in the first place by accident. I filled in for somebody who didn't show up.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool.
But selling out these arenas without even renting them, that's a great business model. You're gonna have 1,000 people calling you to get involved in this now. But seriously, they wouldn't even give the American Heart Association or pick a huge U.S. charity with chapters in every state. They would never just offer Madison Square Garden for free to anyone. Outside of maybe when they did the concert for New York after 9/11 or a massive benefit concert. That might be the only time. But there's still union people that have to be paid. Everybody who moves any piece of equipment at a lot of these places is union. So you can't get around any of those fees. But the rental, that's a big deal. And, I use the word sport for esports. But, I mean, people argue that the NASCAR guys, they're like, driving around a track. They're not athletes. They're not athletes. You can call it a sport if you want, but they're not athletes. I personally disagree. I think it's endurance, a ton of endurance, and you got to keep your heart in shape. We got to keep your weight down for one. You got to learn to sit there and take that.
It's just a different perspective.
Yeah,
but
for hours and hours, and you got to have strong arms and shoulders. You got to be nimble, as you said. In this business, the top people are done by the time they're 25. They're in the eSports retirement center. They're on the way to the eSports Hall of Fame. Make the argument for me, because you started to already, that this is tough business. But make the argument that eSports professionals should be called athletes.
So I think that there are many arguments and many angles to that, I would say. So if you call stuff like chess a sport, or some people even say that poker might be a sport, how can you say that playing video games is not a sport? I think it's just a different way, a different understanding of what a sport is from a categorization perspective. But if you look at like what's being done, which is like a competition, like between people or between teams, like there's teamwork, there is preparation, there is warm-ups, there's training. I think it's very hard. I mean, even if people don't want to consider it a sport, then they have to say that it is identical in many ways. So it's just a name, right? If you call it or not a sport. Well, what matters is just the components that make this similar are there. So I think from esports perspective, people don't really care so much anymore because esports is just grew to a place where it doesn't really need it. Like you see, there are esports tournaments that have more viewership like than the Olympic Games. So you see that it's. I mean, who needs who more?
That's right? A statement. That's a statement right there. More viewers than the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
Incredible. So you took the business side of this, but did you ever consider going the professional gamer route yourself?
Well, like you said, I'm pretty much done from an age perspective.
Yeah.
I did play competitively back in the day, but when I was doing that, it was not as popular as now. Like you wouldn't get this kind, like the biggest prizes that I've won were like a monitor or a mouse or a keyboard, So, but nowadays it's like thousands or millions.
You didn't win cash. You won stuff.
Yeah. So, but now it's like millions. Some tournaments, like some kids win millions, like 3 or 4 million per kid. So it's a big deal now.
So that's the argument in high school when you're just playing video games all day. I know you can go pro in it, but do you think there'll ever be like a college league for this?
Yeah, there are some popping up, and I think that promoting like esports from a college level is important as well. But yeah, from a professional standpoint, it's mostly like private organizations that are independent.
It costs schools so much to keep football, American football programs going and basketball programs. I mean, they have to build arenas and stadiums just for those sports, and they constantly redoing the locker rooms, and there's always the same 6 or 7 teams that are there at the end of the season with a few surprises here or there.
Yeah.
I mean, this year in basketball, there's probably going to be a surprise national champion. But with the year that we've just had and students spread out all over the place, I can imagine the schools might consider making a move into this if they're like, we've got a great javelin team here at the school, but a lot more people are watching esports than javelin. So maybe we should get the University of Texas, esports team out there to take on Oklahoma. I mean, the rivalries would still be the same. And when I was in college, I played a lot of video games. So it seems like a pretty good match. And if you can get college scholarships for that, and it costs a lot less because the team would never have to travel. I guess they could travel. I guess it'd be kind of fun to be next to you in a chair or standing right next to your rival playing, right? Just like on the professional level.
Yeah, actually, there are already many universities that are building their own spaces. Like we've been talking to host an event in the US, probably together with Full Sail University in Orlando, and they have an eSports arena there.
Get out of here.
Called
I had no idea.
I'm
sorry, I was half joking that perhaps this could be a real thing in college, and you're telling me it's not only...
No, it's happening.
It's happening. It's happening. Okay. So maybe my children could go to school on an eSports scholarship to Full Sail University or
probably
somewhere else. Well, that's incredible. So this is really happening, and this is going to be a major... There's going to be like an NCAA tournament for gamers.
Yeah, and even now, like from an educational perspective, since we were talking about universities, we're even working with a big university in the US as well to develop a master course, like all about esports management, and especially from an events perspective.
A master course in esports management to go along with the people in science,
events management and
math, and the other side of it, creating the games.
Yeah,
so this
is
it's not just a growth opportunity in sports. It's a growth opportunity where politicians should be listening, because somebody is going to be, I mean, the games are created now, but some city could start attracting all of these great jobs that are going to be out there. So it's not only viable for education, it's viable for the economy. And now everybody's looking post-pandemic, where is the growth? Where is it going to be? Well, this could be a major area of growth. It already is. So besides the company and the eSports festival and this huge announcement that you dropped on us that you have this worldwide online tournament, which is unbelievable. You've been busy during the lockdown, but I always call this my COVID confidential segment. Is there anything else that you learned about yourself? Or are you a world-class chef and you didn't know it? Did you learn? I mean, I imagine you speak 3 to 4, if not more languages now.
Yeah.
Were you like, I'll just pick up German. Why not? Or something like that. Did you find out a new superpower that you had?
I don't think so, but I think the only superpower that I've always had is the ability to learn new things, and I do push myself to learn new things every year. And I think that this gave me a bit of a pause, because like between the last 2 years, I think I flew more than 30 or 40 countries. So it was really tiresome, like from scouting to conferences to hosting the events themselves, like preparation. There's so much to be done. At least for the event in Dubai, I was there for 10 or 12 times over a year period. So I was basically never home. And I think that, at least for me, this pandemic gave me a bit of a pause to be able to acquire new skills, learn new things, and just be better prepared for the next season that's coming.
Excellent. And e-gaming is a language amongst itself, but how many languages do you speak? Let's count e-gaming as a language. We know English. How many other languages besides those two do you speak?
I speak Portuguese as a main language, English as a second language, a bit of Chinese, Cantonese, not Mandarin, a bit of Spanish because it's very similar with Portuguese, and I guess
I speak Mandarin. Well. That's why I would have. We can't communicate on that level, so we'll stick to English. But
sure.
And then anything else besides that?
Spanish and French a bit. Just because it comes from Latin and it's kind of similar. And I think that's it.
So when you're in Orlando, you can get around Epcot Center very easily because you can speak all the languages there.
Yeah.
At Full Sail University. After the eSports arena, hop over to Epcot Center. So unbelievable. You have been busy and somehow you still found time for a little downtime. Now that you're getting back into it because the world is reopening, how can we find out more about Girl Gamers Festival? Because this is festivalPass, and we're all about the festivals, and we can't wait to get back to them. So how can we find out more about this?
So right now we have everything consolidated on a new website that we just launched at girlgamer.gg. So it's interesting because all the gaming related stuff, it's using the GG domain. And this is because GG in gaming language means good game. Like when you finish a match, you will say to your adversary, to your opponent, you'll type GG, as in you enjoyed the match or like good game. It's kind of like a handshake. So like the gaming, all the gaming companies are using the GG domains, which is actually a domain from a country. Yeah, which is actually a domain for a country, and they're making so much money from domain names because of the gaming industry.
Which country is GG?
I don't know if it's Ghana. I need to search, but yeah, there it's a kind of, all the top level domains belong to countries. Yeah, like especially the new ones.
.me, that's Montenegro, I believe. I mean, they made people thought that was like owned by Apple or something. It was like, no, that's actually a country, and they just sold off the rights to a top level domain company who just has the rights to sell all domain names with the .me extension. So .gg is the extension for this. So it's
Girl Gamer.
Girlgamer.gg, and then Virtualmente.
Yeah, Virtualmente is actually a digital studio that I run for multiple years, but it's more focused like on design and web design and like more an agency type of things, which is actually what I've been like applying for creating everything for the festival itself. So it's a lot of in-house work.
So that's sort of like your B2B platform, but social media, people can find you guys at Girl Gamer would be on Instagram and
Instagram, Twitter. And that's,
and all of the above. All right, folks. Well, look, game over or podcast over, and I'm out of quarters anyway. So, see, we used to use quarters back in my day for the games. Maybe you did in the early days in Macau.
I did as well, yeah.
So, Fernando, thank you very much, and we'll see you guys next time. No quarters needed on festivalPass Stories. Thanks to Dos Hombres. Fernando, thanks again. Take it easy.
Thank you.
This is festivalPass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next.